ordered an attack. Your troops refused to attack.
Our troops did attack, sir, but they could make no headway.
Because they didn't try, Colonel. I saw it myself. Half of your men never left the trenches.
A third of my men were pinned down because the fire was so intense.
Don't quibble over fractions, Colonel. The fact remains that a good part of your men never left their own trenches. Colonel Dax, I'm going to have 10 men from each company in your regiment tried under penalty of death for cowardice.
Penalty of death?
For cowardice! They've skimmed milk in their veins instead of blood.
Well, that's the reddest milk I've ever seen. My trenches are soaked.
That's just about enough out of you,
I'm
Colonel.
not going to mince words and stand on
Colonel Dax, if you
lives
continue in this manner, I shall have to place you under arrest.
I believe the Colonel has a point, even though he makes it rather bluntly. This is not a trial, but it does bear certain aspects of one, and Colonel Dax technically is cast in the role of the defense. In view of the gravity of the charges, a court of law would grant him all possible latitude in presenting his case.
Latitude is one thing, insubordination another.
I am merely offering an opinion, General. Please do not feel constrained to accept it.
I am perfectly willing to accept it, General Brula.
I'm sorry, sir. I certainly didn't intend to be insubordinate. My only aim is to remind you of the heroism these men have shown on every occasion in the past.
We're not talking about the past. We're talking about the present.
But don't you see, sir? They're not cowards, so if some of them didn't leave the trenches, it must have been because it was impossible.
They were ordered to attack. It was their duty to obey that order. We can't leave it up to the men to decide when an order is possible or not. If it was impossible, the only proof of that would be their dead bodies lying in the bottom of the trenches. They're scum, Colonel. The whole rotten regiment. A pack of sneaking, whining, tail-dragging curs.
You really believe that, sir?
Yes, I do. That's exactly what I believe. And what's more, it's an incontestable fact.
Why not shoot the entire regiment? I'm perfectly serious.
Well, now, Colonel, you're missing the point entirely. We don't want to slaughter the French army. All we want to do is to set an example.
Oh, well, if it's an example you want, then take me.
Take you?
Yes, sir, if it's an example you want. One man will do as well as 100. The logical choice is the officer most responsible for the attack.
Come now, Colonel, I think you're overwrought. This is not a question of officers. Hall, we don't want to overdo this thing. Suppose we just make it a dozen.
I was talking of 100 men. Now we're down to 12.
Hall, let's not haggle over this thing anymore. Let's get it settled once and for all so that we can all live with it.
Oh, perhaps I was a bit too anxious to see proper justice meted out. I've spent my entire life in the army. I've always tried to be true to my principles. That's the only mistake I can ever be accused of. I'll settle for this. Have the company commanders select one man from each company in the first wave. 3 in all.
Well, that's very reasonable of you, Paul.
The court-martial will meet at the chateau at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Will that be convenient for you, General?
Oh, I won't be there, Paul.
You won't be there?
No, I think it best that you handle this matter on your own.
Probably so.
General Miro, if it's at all possible, I'd like to be appointed counsel for the accused.
I'll take the matter into consideration.
Oh, we can permit that, Henry Paul. Of course we can. Consider it settled, Colonel.
Thank you, sir.
Well, noon straight up, Paul. I hope that you can stay for lunch, Colonel.
George, I'm afraid the Colonel won't have time.
Don't deny it, Paul. You've been hiding this man, keeping him for your own. I think that was very selfish of you.
Thank you for your courtesy, General, but I'm afraid there isn't much time between now and 3 o'clock.
Of course, Colonel. I shall look forward to the pleasure of seeing you again.
Yes, Captain, what is it?
You wanted me to report to you here, sir. Captain Russo, battery commander, sir.
Yes, of course. I wanted to speak to you about some of your shells falling short. I haven't time to go into it now. Report back to your commander to further orders.
Yes, sir.
Bad stuff. Demoralizes the men.
I quite agree with you. The best solution is to shelve him to another outfit.
Court of inquiry ought to roast him maybe first.
Well, in cases like this, shells falling short, I always try to avoid an inquiry. It gets around among the men and makes a bad impression. Now, shelving would be the best discipline for him, in my opinion.
Well, perhaps you're right.
Oh, would you excuse me for a moment? A regimental matter I want to mention to the Colonel.
I'll join you in the dining room.
Splendid, in a moment.
That'll be Captain Sonsi, Captain Renoir, and Lieutenant Roger.
Yes, sir.
Have the meeting at regimental headquarters in half an hour.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'd like a word.
Certainly, sir.
Let's be sensible about this.
Sensible, sir?
Listen to me, Dax. Get out this fancy talk with me, understand? Colonel Boulard seems to think you're funny. I don't. I want you to drop this affair.
I beg your pardon, sir. Is that an order?
Colonel Dax, when this mess is cleaned up, I'll break you. I'll find an excuse and I'll break through the ranks. I'll ruin you. And it'll be just what you deserve, showing such little loyalty to your commanding officer. That's all, Colonel.